since the birth of the American Legion back in 1919, our leadership knew that a veteran was a veteran, regardless of race, religion, or gender. Women could vote for national commander before they could vote for President of the United States. When you explore the original purpose of the American Legion, support for veterans, defense, youth, and patriotic values, a common denominator emerges. The American Legion was built to strengthen America. That is the why of the American Legion. They demonstrate that Congress shares our belief that if you give veterans a chance, they will exceed all expectations, and in doing so, strengthen America. Are we living up to the vision of our founding fathers? What I have seen during my visits to your departments and to the communities, I absolutely believe that we are living up to that vision. In March, we celebrated our 99th birthday, and in August, we will gather at our 100th National Convention. General MacArthur once said, "Old soldiers never die, they just fade away." The American Legion will not die, nor will we fade away. Neither will our American Legion Auxiliary, our Sons of the American Legion, or our American Legion Riders. So in closing, I would like to pledge family first. Family first today, family first tomorrow, family first always. My fellow Legionnaires, Legion family members, friends, what an exciting time to be a member of the American Legion. A centennial observation is a significant milestone that very few organizations can achieve. But to gather here with the same mission, the same pillars, and the same commitment to serve as our founders did a century ago is truly a remarkable achievement. Now, I know that the calendar says 99 years, but our founders wasted no time during American Legion Year Zero at our very first National Convention here in Minneapolis in 1919. Hardly anyone here today remembers that first convention, except perhaps past National Commander Dan Ludwig. It was here that our Constitution and preamble were adopted. Those first delegates voted 361 to 323 to locate the Legion's national headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana, instead of putting all of our programs in Washington, D.C. They knew that while it was extremely important to influence policies in our nation's capital, we must always be present in communities that were outside the corridors of power and media attention. Communities that comprise factory workers, farmers, office workers, storekeepers, and laborers. These were the families that produced the Doe boys, and yes, the Doe girls, who led America to victory during the Great War. During the opening, you may have noticed that I did not pound the gavel as forcefully as previous commanders. that has nothing to do with gender stereotypes, and everything to do with our history. This gavel is the same one that was used here in 1919. And even though it is an antique, the real value from that convention was the legacy, the gift that was left for all of us here. By the end of our first year, those early Legionnaires created an organization that had more than 843,000 due-paying members. Air travel was still in its infancy, and most who came here to Minneapolis did so by train or horseless carriage. But as difficult as travel was back then, what was most impressive is the delegates that gathered here to produce a message. It's a message that continues to resonate, inspire service in communities from coast to coast and even overseas. It was in Minneapolis where Legionnaires first pledged, among other things, to inculcate a sense of individual obligation to our community, state, and nation. It was in Minneapolis where a resolution passed to support the Boy Scouts of America, an organization in which the American Legion continues to charter 1,700 units, comprising a total of 64,000 young people. We believe from the very beginning that a veteran was a veteran. It didn't matter whether they served in Paris, France, or at Parris Island, South Carolina. The American Legion welcomed you into our ranks, regardless of race, religion, or gender. This was all well ahead of society, which had not yet granted women the right to vote, and our own military, which was not racially integrated until another 29 years later. From the passage of the GI Bill to the creation of the current Department of Veterans Affairs, the American Legion has accomplished a great deal since 1919. At 99 years old, people might understandably ask the American Legion, "Aren't you tired?" The answer is, hell no. The best is yet to come. Just a couple of months ago, President Trump signed the VA Mission Act, a law that will dramatically improve the quality of life for thousands of veterans and their families. It infuses needed funds into the Veterans Choice Program and expanded the VA Caregivers Program to benefit families regardless of when that veteran served. While we recognize that VA is not always a practical option for all veterans, the expansion of choice for some should not require the cutting of services to others. We believe that our veterans fought for the red, white, and blue, not for Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They deserve a real health care system, not just a thank you and a voucher. That is why we are opposed to sacrificing the best health care system in America at the altar of privatization. And at the same time, we are committed to making the VA even better. Let me give you an example of how VA makes life better for so many veterans. 3 weeks ago, past National Commander Dave Rabine led a system-worth-saving visit to the VA healthcare system right here in Minneapolis. The system here serves close to 100,000 unique veterans, and it employs more than 1,000 vets. They're not perfect. After all, who is perfect? The system worth-saving team found that patient wait time was not a problem there, despite having to serve a sizable population. Moreover, the average wait time for an established mental health patient is only 1 day. But what about the quality of care? What about the quality of care, you may ask? The Minneapolis VA healthcare system has earned the coveted 5-star rating for 6 consecutive years. This is a testament to the quality here locally. There are many other VA success stories in communities across the country. The impact of American Legion volunteerism can be felt not just in the corridors of just about every VA hospital, but on the outside as well. American Legion family members are like Energizer bunnies. We keep going and going and going, trying to make life better for veterans and their families everywhere. And even when it feels like it's time to take a nap, a visit to an American Legion post or a Legion youth activity is like a double shot of caffeine. You certainly didn't get tired when you gave generously to the hurricane victims in Texas, Florida, and Puerto Rico. I also know that you won't be too tired to continue to give to the victims impacted by hurricanes in Hawaii and the wildfires out west. The American Legion family wasn't too tired to help brand new families, those welcoming infants this year with an Operation Comfort Warrior grant appropriately awarded this past spring, close to Mother's Day. We are also doing great things, but we absolutely have to grow as an organization if we are going to continue to serve our country in a manner worthy of the American Legion name. Now, I will admit, I do get tired of people asking me how to recruit new, younger members. Ladies and gentlemen, all of our members, old, young, and middle-aged, are equal in the eyes of the American Legion. "50 years ago, the consensus among the national media was that young veterans would never join the American Legion. That was a direct quote in the Wall Street Journal at the time. Well, those young veterans were the Vietnam veterans, and they did join. Maybe not right away, but they did join in very big numbers. But we cannot be complacent and wait for people to come to us. We must be present for active duty troops and their families of those who are deployed. We know that Vietnam veterans were not adequately appreciated by their fellow Americans, and we must never let that happen again. We shouldn't just be there for troops send off and welcome homes, but when those television cameras are off, we need to be there as well. Help the families whose loved ones are deployed, mow their yards, shovel their snow, fix those leaky faucets. And when our heroes come home, when they come home, give them a place to go where they will feel comfortable, share their friendship and their thoughts, and listen. really listen. Get them help if they need it. Give them something to do to make them feel like a needed part of our great American Legion family. God knows, we could all use some extra hands down at the post. As important it is for us to recruit members into our organization, we will never meet our membership goals if we do not retain the members who have already joined us, who are already part of our family. We must personally engage with all of our Legionnaires so they can understand that they are a very valued member of our family. Even if they won't go to a meeting, they should know that their input is welcome and their membership is very appreciated. A year ago, I shared that $250,000 was being spent sending past due notices to our members after the first of the year. I asked departments to please concentrate on getting those members who traditionally pay late to pay early. I was excited to see that at least 42 departments were successful in getting more than 40% of their traditional late payers to renew early this year. This successful gain required many personal contacts made at the post level. Not only does early engagement often lead to retention, but it usually leads to more robust programs that can only come from a large core of our volunteers. This year, I was able to witness the fruits of our local programs at the national level. When I flew into Washington, D.C. last month, I was very tired. As I got out of the car at Greenbelt, Maryland Post, I was greeted by our American Legion Boys Nation senators. As I shook the hands of those 100 boys, the staff, and the volunteers, I could not help but feel very rejuvenated. And the next day, I had the opportunity to meet with the 100 ALA Girls Nation attendees. I felt the same sensation. And the same sensation of pride occurs when I meet with our other amazing youth champions, whether they are baseball players or participants in oratoricals, shooting sports, or junior ROTCs. Thanks to their interactions with you, our American Legion family volunteers, many of these young people have already decided that they want to give back to our nation in a meaningful way. Some will join the military. Some will serve as first responders or perhaps teachers at a school. Some of our alumni have become doctors and are working to treat or heal ailments suffered by our veterans. Some will join our American Legion family, perhaps as Legion Riders, raising money for our Legacy Fund and our other programs. This is who we are in the American Legion family. We are people who change lives. And as we get excited about our future, we must always honor our past, but we must also do so wisely. Recently, I issued a statement expressing concern about an expensive military parade planned for Washington, D.C. We are deeply appreciated that the administration tabled the plan for now. Our concern wasn't due to any lack of appreciation for our troops, but it was because we felt the money would be better spent on treating their wounds and assisting their families. And sadly, it's far too early to declare victory on the war on terrorism. I woke up one morning 8 months ago at the Dragon Hill Lodge located at the U.S. Army garrison in Seoul, South Korea. I woke to the news that North Korea had just launched an intercontinental ballistic missile test. one with greater capabilities than its previous attempts. The world and our son was understandably alarmed, but our stoic military members stationed on the peninsula shrugged it off and said, "It's just another Wednesday in Seoul." Since that time, the President of the United States met with the leaders of North Korea, and there have been other talks of officially ending the Korean War, a conflict that only ended with a truce rather than a treaty. We still have some very real doubts about whether North Korea can be trusted to destroy its nuclear program, but we celebrate the recent repatriation of remains of what are probably American war veterans. This is just another reason that the American Legion advocates for those missing in action so those fallen heroes can be reunited with their families. Now, I am fond of saying family first. It's been the theme for my year. I say it because most veterans themselves prioritize their families. And if you take time to care for the family, they reason, you're taking care of me. Sometimes the reverse is also true. Those family members would say, veterans first. Take care of my husband, my wife, my son or daughter who is in harm's way defending us. We know that our American Legion Auxiliary believes this, and we see the same passion in our sons and in the American Legion Riders. The American Legion has always understood that veterans' benefits are a cost of war. We will continue to strongly oppose and fight attempts to diminish the benefits offered by the Harry W. Comrie Forever GI Bill and remind the Pentagon that forever does not mean a mere 16 years. Promises made to our military must be promises kept. This is the message that has resonated since our very first American Legion Convention 99 years ago. And the same message goes for military families. It rings true throughout the entire American Legion family. Each and every one of you have something so special. It made you put the uniform on in the first place. It makes you and even though you've taken the uniform off, you continue to serve this great nation. So in closing, I will again pledge family first today, family first tomorrow, family first always. God bless each and every one of you, and thank you.